Hi everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith, hanging out with Sarah Steele. Brand new season of The Good Fight is here. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really well. Thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
So let's talk about your story, because you got started really young in this business and you've been doing it for a while now. So let's start all the way back. I mean, take me back to being a kid and trying to figure out how to do this whole thing. So why'd you want to jump into acting?
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really crazy. I feel really lucky. It was just kind of like a light bulb went off when I was in 3rd grade. Someone that I was like literally in the cafeteria at lunch with was talking about how he was taking acting classes in the city, and I was like, it really felt like an egg like dropped on my head, and I was like, that's what I'm supposed to do. And so I begged my parents to like sign me up for this thing that this kid was doing. They actually were, they're so supportive and amazing, but when I first asked them this, they actually were like, oh God, what a waste of money.
Wow.
But they did it, and they were amazing, and, you know, drove me every Saturday to this class. And through the class, I ended up meeting this wonderful man named Ricardo Martin, who sort of plucked me out of this class and put me in something called the Rainbow Company, which was a group of kids in Philly that would basically go around to like the inner city schools and ask sort of like our peers there, what's a story that you would like to see a play about? And then they would give us kind of like just a plot, like I live in a shelter and I don't want people at school to know. Right. And then we would take that plot and make like a hip hop musical. Oh
wow! So it's like a little pre-Hamilton, is what you say.
Yes. So it was like this very generative, creative process that was just a blast for a kid. And I got to like skip school and go do it in these various schools, and I was in heaven. And then, you know, through that, the person who's still my manager sort of saw me in something.
All the way through?
Yeah, she's still.
Wow.
She lives in LA now. I miss her a lot. But had me start auditioning in the city, and then I never really got anything substantial through those auditions. For years, you know, for years I would, again, like family taking me up to New York. I was like so lucky to be able to do that. I auditioned for years and years, and I never got anything until I got Spanglish, which was a crazy thing to be my first job.
How old were you when you did Spanglish?
I was 15, and you know, I had to gain weight for it and wear a fat suit, and it was also like a massive like prestige Hollywood movie.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
Crazy. But it was also so kind of like, it turned my life upside down, because I had to live in LA. My parents couldn't come with me, so I was just a little isolated. It's hard to being a child actor. You know, you're sort of like plucked away from all of your peers and suddenly spending all of your time with adults. And after I did it, I was kind of like, you know, I think I just want to go back to high school. So I literally did Spanglish, and the next thing I did was my high school, Oklahoma. And just kind of stopped acting for a while and applied to college like all of the other kids. And then once I got to New York, I kind of was just, you know, really getting the theater bug again, and did some off-Broadway plays while I was in school. And then really just continued with theater after I got out. And and here we are.
That's a wild story.
It's crazy.
When you think about it.
It is.
And the thing about a child actor, like, people don't think about spending all your time with adults, being without your family, being 15 and going through that process and having to put on a fat suit. You know, those are things that you don't really have any preparation for. So as you reflect on it, because it's been 15 years now since
that's
which
crazy.
is insane. So when you reflect on that whole experience, what were the best parts and what were the craziest parts of that?
What were the best parts? I mean, doing that movie was so fun, and I learned so much. I mean, getting to work with James L. Brooks, that's like insane. At 15, he was just an amazing director, and he really loved me, I think, and we got along very well, and working with Adam Sandler and Téa Leoni, and you know, actually for a brief period of time, the grandmother was not Cloris Leachman, it was Anne Bancroft.
Oh, really?
So like I got to work with both Anne Bancroft and then reshoot those same scenes with Cloris Leachman.
Interesting.
Just a lot of like, it was just so exciting. It was so exciting for a kid. But yeah, at the same time, I think being away from my family was hard, and being away from my friends was hard. And I definitely, you know, it's funny, I found actually like journals from that time in my parents' house about a year ago, and was just like, I'm so grateful. It blew my mind. I'm so grateful. Someone bought me, the year that I got Spanglish and I was going to go out and do it, someone bought me a journal that was like, you write something every day. Don't remember who it was. So grateful for whoever. Whoever that. Yeah, if you're out there. Yeah, it was just fascinating, and you can really see kind of like how sort of conflicted I was. And I was so excited, and I also was like missing my life. I got sort of like plucked out of my life.
Well, it's awesome that at 15 you were that self-aware to be able to reflect, and maybe you didn't realize that it was going to benefit you 10, 15 years down the road.
I
but
know.
That's just huge for you as a person growing. You know, to be able to look back and say, okay, this was great. This is where I had some struggles, but I can actually really go back to that mindset, which not a lot of people can do unless you watch the movie or have other footage that was there at that time. You know?
Right, yeah.
So that's really interesting. And I feel like with Spanglish also, it got a lot of play on cable. Like at that point, like if you're like scrolling through the channels and it's just like, because I mean, a bunch of people saw it in the theater, right? But it was like one of those movies that kind of was just consistently on cable.
It's true.
And
it's true.
I feel like whether it was people who were in your age bracket or just other people in general, they were in for an Adam Sandler movie, but it was a much different type of Adam Sandler movie. And like a very deep movie too. And as a 15-year-old to kind of unpack that, it must have been interesting for you to just see adults addressing these very adult issues as just a 15-year-old.
Right, yeah, and even like that, the 15-year-old I was playing was so rich and so interesting.
A very mature 15-year-old.
Yeah, exactly, kind of like an old soul, and super interesting. And the script was so good.
Yeah, it was a really good script. It's an underrated movie that people kind of forget about too, but there's a lot going on there.
That's funny, it doesn't feel like that to me, because of course like so many people talk to me about it.
Well, it's like the first thing on your IMDb, right? It's something that's like, oh yeah, okay, Sarah, I know her from this movie, but if you're thinking about the other people involved, they've gone on and done other things. But no, for you, it's such a great thing. And at the same time, I think it's really cool that you did the movie, but you realized, I don't want this to define my life.
Right.
So when you go back to high school, you've done this major movie. How does that all shake out?
You know, oddly, like, it was fine. Like, I think that it didn't change. I mean, it changed me, but I wasn't kind of like,
weren't defined by it?
No, and I didn't sort of I wanted people to just kind of see me the same way as they did before.
Right, you just wanted to do Oklahoma.
And then I just did Oklahoma, so it was like I kind of never left. Like it was like, I was still like, who's gonna ask me to the prom? Like I was still dealing with all the same high school. Where should I apply to college? Like so, yeah.
So how'd you pick up the theater bug? You're obviously doing it in high school, but once you get here to the city, when does that all shake out?
Well, I think that I just was a little frustrated with a lot of the material that was coming in for me as far as television and film.
Right, because you said in the past you felt like you were being pigeonholed a little bit.
For sure. I mean, I think especially because of coming up in Spanglish and then kind of not being overweight, people were like, what, who are you, what, so are you, and Hollywood just defines women in these very, or it's getting better maybe, but for the most part defines women in these very strict categories of like, are you pretty, are you ugly, are you, and I just was getting so frustrated with those categories and with, and I was just like, none of this interests me, I don't want to like, play women who I don't believe exist or don't relate to, and I just really found that theater I could find roles that I related to much more deeply, and also just that the writing was better, and really that's I was an English major at Columbia. Like if the writing is bad, I can't. I just like I'm horrible in it. I've tried, and like I'm bad. I look bad. They look bad. Like I just was. So I was really always just looking for the strength of the script, and that ended up funneling me towards theater just a lot more. Obviously, this show is written incredibly well, but yeah, that's just sort of how it shook out.
Well, you care about the process. You know, you care about the script. You care about the people you're working with. You care about the character that you're going to play.
Right.
But there are some other people who are just like, all right, cool, I'm going to do this project. It's just another project.
And I respect that too. You know, like it's a job.
That's fine.
Like, yeah.
But for you, I think the theater route really helped you out because you're able to just get those reps, right? You're able to have that interaction with the audience, and you're just able to learn every day. So when you think about your theater experience, what have been some of the most important lessons?
Oof, I mean, I learned a lot from doing the humans for, you know, all told, like a year and a half or a little bit more. I did it for a year and 3 months, you know, off Broadway and on Broadway. Then I did it in LA, and then I did it in London. And you know, getting to work on a play that is essentially perfect. It for that long, taught me a lot. You know, it helped me let go of a lot of kind of like child actor needing to execute it perfectly and do it the same way every night. Right. It just kind of, you can't do something the same way every night for a year and 3 months.
You can't be perfect,
yeah. And so sometimes you're going to try new things, and sometimes you're going to fail, and you're not going to feel good about every performance. And so that freed me of a lot of like pressure that I think I've put on myself.
Yeah, it's really awesome when creatively you don't feel beaten down by something like that.
No,
you know, you can just act and perform.
Yeah.
And so you're doing the theater thing, and then The Good Wife comes into the picture.
Yeah,
and you know, it feels like whether it's The Good Wife or The Good Fight, like you've been on this stretch for a long time.
It's true.
What's it been like growing with this show into its second form and just with the audience as well?
What's so hilarious and ironic about the fact that I'm still playing Marissa Gold is that I got the part in like a very brief moment when I was in college where I really thought like acting's not for me. Like I just was, it was just like, it ended up being a phase, but I just was like, I don't think that this is what I'm gonna do once I graduate. And so it's that thing that actors always say of like, I walked in the room and like, I didn't need the job, like I didn't care. And I thought it was at that time like a 2-episode arc playing Alan Cummings' daughter. And I got it, and I did those 2 episodes, and then I just went back to school, you know, and didn't kind of like think much of it. I just thought it was like, you know, I did a couple episodes on Nurse Jackie, a couple episodes on, you know.
You're just bouncing around at that point.
Yeah, and then once I was out of school and doing it full time and very much did not have the same attitude, they sort of like called me again and had me do this really big arc in season 6, which was so fun. That was while I was doing my first Broadway show. And then at the party for the end of The Good Wife, where I was like, oh God, we're saying goodbye to this show. It's so sad. It's been so fun. I'll miss it so much. Robert and Michelle kind of pulled me aside, and they were like, can we steal you for like this spin-off, you know, that we're doing?
Yes.
I was like, yeah. You know, but I didn't want to leave the humans, so it was really, I was like, but you can't steal me from the humans, because I want to keep doing that. And then they very generously, they worked it out for me, so that season 1 I was doing the humans at night.
Which must have been insane. I mean, I've heard you talk about it in the past. And
insane.
It was a blur, I'm sure, at that point.
Yeah.
But are you glad that you did both at that point?
Yes, but I really tried to say, like, promise myself, I will not do that again. And it'll be so hard because, of course, like, you know, things come around that you want to do, and you're just like, oh, whatever, I'll make it work. But I really was like, no, that was too much. I do not want to do that to myself.
You got to know when to cut things off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to work smart.
Too much.
So when you think about Marissa and building out that character, what do you like about playing that character? What are some of the challenges there, too?
Yeah. I'm like trying to think of new things to say because I've said so much on this, but
well, where else can Marissa go? How about that then?
Let me think. No, I want to answer the question. What do I love about playing her? I mean, I have so much respect for Marissa. I love how brave and tough she is. I love that she's not ever afraid to say exactly what she thinks.
It's a good quality.
And she is unique. There is not another character on TV like her. And she feels like a collaboration. She feels like a creation between like what they wrote, what I did, and then what they kept writing. It's felt like we were like playing tennis in how she's
cool.
in how she's developed. I really started to feel, you know, a certain amount of the way in, even on The Good Wife, that they were watching what I was doing and like building her sort of like around their conception and around mine. And so that's such an amazing thing to get to do on TV. Usually I feel like on TV, in my experience, you're like, it feels more like you're being wound up and like pushed out.
You're kind of boxed into what was written.
Totally. And you know, whenever like Robert directs, I'll come in and, you know, crack some joke or say something different. He'll be like, oh yeah, do that. Just do that. That's funny. That's funnier. Or I'll email him. I'll read the script and email him and be like, can I say this instead? And sometimes he'll be like, no. And sometimes he'll be like, yeah, sure, that made me laugh. Robert and Michelle. But yeah, I don't know.
Awesome.
It's just been such a blast.
Do you see yourself writing scripts, producing, directing one day?
You know, it's funny. Right now, actually, I am putting together, I volunteer for an organization called New Alternatives for LGBT homeless youth, and right now I'm putting together a concert to raise money for them at Club Cumming, actually.
Oh, nice.
And it's been a lovely thing while I was doing The Good Fight to have something else that I'm organizing, because like love the show so much that I love working on the show, but there's a lot of like sort of waiting in your dressing room, and if you don't have anything to do, and I feel like in other seasons I tried to maybe like write scripts during that, you know, off time, but you kind of can't get into a flow. You're being interrupted a lot. So having sort of like administrative tasks that I had to do to put this concert together has been great.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it kind of goes back to your roots of what you were doing in Philly all those years ago.
100%, yeah.
And it's something personal to you, and it's awesome that you can help people, but it also benefits you at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know. It's like that whole thing with volunteering.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
Like helps them and helps you. Yeah.
Definitely. So new season's dropping this week.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot to be excited about. Yeah. What do you think people should really be focused on this season?
I mean, what I love most about this season is that it's crazy. Like, it is crazy, wild television. It started to become clear last season, but I think this season it's even more in your face that like this is not The Good Wife. Like this, we do soliloquies. We all sing this season. Like it's so brilliant and just as kind of like astute about this moment in time, but it's zany in like such a great, weird way. I just think it's so much fun, and everyone's gonna love it.
That sounds really interesting. So besides the show, what are some other things down the road you'd still like to do?
Oh my gosh, you know, well, I sort of promised myself at the beginning of this year, like until April 15th, I'm just gonna focus like on this concert, which is on April 15th at Club Cumming.
There you go.
And then after that, I'm going to I'm gonna think about the next thing. I have like a short film that I'm sitting on that maybe I'll try to make, but I'm just, you know, releasing the pressure to do that until this concert's over.
Well, I think the cool thing is that you have your foundation with the show, and then you can kind of dabble with all these other things. Whereas when you're just starting out, you're kind of taking all these different movies and shows because you have to just to build things out. And it's great that you're in a position to just be like, I can kind of do the things I want to do.
Right, and also I think it's been so empowering to me, for me to like put some things in motion that I, you know, made myself, so that I'm not just waiting for other people to say like, yes, we want you, or, you know.
And you mentioned it before, just especially as a woman in the industry too, when people aren't necessarily thinking of you or thinking of you for a separate part, you create your own stuff, then you're bringing it to the table. Totally different ballgame.
Totally, yeah.
And that's the cool thing about parts of the industry that are changing. Some things remain the same, but at the same time, it's that more women are empowered, and whether it's a woman like you or a woman who's older, like a Christine Baranski, you know, it's just like everybody can kind of do their thing now and do it in the way that they want to do it. And I think that's one of the awesome things about it.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Well, Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
So nice to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can catch The Good Fight on CBS All Access starting on Thursday. See you next time here on The Sit Down.